Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. So glad you're joining us today. Today we're going to be looking at 3 characteristics of great friendship. I'm excited to dive in and look at the relationship between Jonathan and David. Before we do, I want to encourage you right now, hit subscribe below for us. I really believe you're going to want to get notified when new videos come out in this series or any series. So get notified now by hitting subscribe below so you don't miss out. Also, do me another favor. Go over to our website today. That is beresolute.org, beresolute.org. Do something for me while you're over there. Subscribe to the Daily DEVO. I write it fresh every single day. It's always short, sweet, and to the point. I think you'll love it. Get it delivered to your inbox today. And with that, let's dive into our lesson 3, characteristics of great friendship. You know, perhaps one of the most famous stories of friendship in the entire Bible is, of course, the friendship that Jonathan had with David. And there's a lot to learn from this relationship. It's a relationship that has really become the legend of all friendships. And I mentioned Jonathan first because often he gets lost in the fame of David. But Jonathan was really critical for David's survival in those years immediately after leaving his father's home. You see, after slaying Goliath, David actually moved into the house of King Saul, who was the first king of Israel. And Saul's oldest son, Jonathan, was one of those guys that became the confidant for David. Jonathan was about 10 years older than David. He was actually the firstborn of Saul's son, and therefore the next biological heir to the throne. But as we know, David was already anointed the next king of Israel, not Jonathan, and therefore this threatened Saul's plan for this long-standing family throne. So no one would have expected that Jonathan and David would have become the friends that they actually became. But they did, right? And in doing so, we discover 3 powerful characteristics of their friendship that are easily applicable to our lives. Here's the first characteristic. They had a soulful connection, a real soulful connection. Listen to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1. It reads this way. It says, as soon as he, that's David, had finished speaking to Saul, that's King Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Now, this is a fantastic moment because I think sometimes we actually stumble onto friendship as we journey through life. For David, he stumbled onto Jonathan. Jonathan was perhaps that formidable and important relationship through a season of life that he desperately needed a friend. Jonathan became a confidant, even a wiser, older confidant who had wisdom that he needed for that season of life. You know, as I look back on my life, I have stumbled onto some pretty cool relationships with other men too. I could name a number of people who have left a big mark on my life for a season that I desperately needed a man just like that. And of course, in this situation, Jonathan was that man for David. But I want you to see something here. They had this immediate connection, right? It was soulful. It was a chemistry that was strong and immediate. And the text actually says that their souls were knit together almost from first sight. Now, I just got to debunk this. I don't think this infers anything sexually. I don't think we need to read that into it. Or that it was anything more than a great bond of brothers that was so powerful when the two got together. Now, I just want you to know, I think that we are all come across people like this in our life, that God brings these men across us and across our lives for us to build a relationship with them. I've had a couple of men in my life who I had an immediate connection to, who have for many years impacted me, and still today, some of the things that they said impact me. And I think we as men, we should look out for these soulful connections that God brings along our path. We should try to seek them out, but at the same time, we should keep our eyes on a lookout for the relationships that God is going to bring our way, and for the chemistry that maybe God wants us to build in our life with these men that may help us through a challenging season of life. Now, here's the second characteristic. The second characteristic was their selfless commitment. their selfless commitment. A little further down in the same chapter, it reads this way. It says, "And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him, gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow, and his belt." That's 1 Samuel 18, verse 14. Now, I got to tell you, that is a big move by Jonathan. This moment really was a declaration of a commitment that Jonathan was making to David. And it was probably even surprising for David, and even more for King Saul, because what Jonathan did could potentially threaten the heirship to the throne. Jonathan was actually pledging gifts to David that would only be pledged by a father to a son. So Jonathan takes a big risk here, a selfless one, but it's beautiful, generous, and selfless, is it not? You know, I think selflessness is important in friendship, but sometimes it's not often found. Just consider for a second the last time a friend who has acted this way toward you in a very selfless nature. In addition, it demonstrates to us a profound commitment in this situation here, formalized by the giving of priceless gifts. Can you remember a moment when you have ever had this done for you, or you have done something like this for someone else? It just doesn't happen that often, does it? But that's what I love about these men. They have a known and selfless commitment to each other. And by the way, it endures actually for the rest of their lives and beyond, which brings us to the third characteristic, and I think the most important one: their enduring loyalty. The enduring loyalty of this friendship. Listen to this. This is a little bit later on, and it's just astounding. It reads, "Then Jonathan said to David, 'Go in peace, because we have sworn, both of us, in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord shall be between you and me, and between my offspring and your offspring forever.' And he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city." So, still after many years of all the strife in the home of King Saul, Jonathan was both a faithful son and also worked hard to be a faithful friend to David. We know that there was a lot of tension between David and Saul. But even here, when David's life is threatened by King Saul, Jonathan's father, Jonathan remains faithful. He never quits on his dad, but he never quits on David either. And even when this terse and tense and difficult situation separates them, the bond carries on as if they never left. I love this moment. It's enduring loyalty. Even in the years that followed, Jonathan and David, their souls remain knit like brothers. Time and distance never affect their loyalty. The memories of their shared difficulties and challenges carry on for many years, even though they live separate due to the tension with King Saul. And you know what? We each need men like this. We need to be men like this as well, right? While many acquaintance makes for a great network, close friends bring with them opportunities for these soulful connections, selfless commitment, and enduring loyalty. So my challenge to you today is not only to find great friends, but be a great friend. Maybe you need to consider today if you need to be more soulful in your connection, or selfless in your commitment, or more enduring in your loyalty. Fellas, I would encourage you today to take some step of faith to be a great friend. And with that, as I always say, live all in for him who lived all in for you.